military writings, for instance, which is the final stage of your 3 stages, or you read Ho Chi Minh, you're talking the same language. And so it seems to me I would be very interested to know how you respond to this question.
If you can remember, I mentioned Marxism before Islam. But the example is Marxism and communism, an ideology and a system of life being based on that ideology. So actually this revolutionary movement and the only example of ideological state was this communist state. It was not a nation state. Although in the later stages it became Russian nationalism as the Chinese, accused them. But in the beginning it was a revolution. And revolution is a revolution. The stages will be the same.
My question is along these lines, that in this very learned presentation, what I gather is this, that some kind of an approach which is for the majoritarian group. We are talking about an Islamic state, and within that the example of Qadianis or things like that. What do you think would be the posture of Muslims for pursuit of justice in United States or in contemporary India? What kind of jihad kind of approach do we visualize? Because really speaking, I'm looking at it also from my own perspective.
Yes, brother. The second stage of jihad will be everywhere where there is even a single Muslim. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam started his da'wah, his invitation towards the way of Allah, when he was all alone in the whole world, not to speak of the Arabian Peninsula. He started it. People started joining him, and in due course of time, he had the power, he had that much strength with him that he challenged the system. So we have to continue the dawah, this calling, Udu ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati. Dawah towards Islam in America, in India, yes, everywhere. But in the Muslim countries, we think there is more chance that people can gather together and establish the Islamic State. Although this hope is now diminishing day by day, but still we are doing it here. But in America, in India, we have to be the propagators of Islam, especially the social justice that Islam provides.
So basically my purpose here is to look at the possibility of an emerging paradigm which can be more universal and which can be applicable to humanity at large, create some kind of a social model. That's where I'm trying to go.
Political also.
Yeah, socio-political, economic model. Yes. Socio-political-economic spiritual model, spiritualistic model, because I think individually each one possibly will be guided by their own sets of spiritual inclination and spiritual evolution. So therefore I think taking the totality of the human situation at an individual level and at the subsets of society, how do we bring it collectively together? I think that's where I'm trying to go with this. And I'll keep on coming back to that maybe.
Brother, as I said, truth is one.
Yes, thank you.
Not everything is true. So we have to propagate the truth and call people to accept the truth.
I've got 2 questions as well. Lots of people are asking 2 questions this afternoon. Not 3, just 2. The first question is a theological one. Do you think a Muslim knows when they move to the second state, i.e. an Iman, and not just
Islam? Yes.
Islam. Do you think a Muslim can know that they're there and be confident that they have authentic faith, or is it something that you always trust you have and hope you have?
No. There are ahadith, tradition of the Prophet, we tell, when this happens, then you are a mu'min. When this thing happens, you are a mu'min. So there are signs of real iman.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But everybody can say yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a matter of self-assessment. Self-experience.
Right.
You can't pronounce a judgment about others.
Right. Thank you. My second question is to do with returning to the whole issue of the stages from passive resistance to active resistance and then to just aggression. You invoked Gandhi as an example of somebody who did stages 1 and 2. But of course the big difference is that Gandhi believed that 1 and 2 were all he was allowed to do because of his commitment to non-injury and to his commitment that taking of life, even in a just cause, is wrong. And of course there are many Christians, well not many, but there are some Christians, Jesus Christ almost certainly, much of the early church for the first 300 years, and continuing groups like the Mennonites and the Quakers and Martin Luther King Jr., who've also stressed that in the end 1 and 2 is where you should stop, because life is sacred, the taking of life is sacred, and is therefore wrong. And once you start killing, it leads to revenge and counter-revenge and the cycle of violence, and you can never be sure that goodness comes out of it. And therefore, isn't there a big difference between what you're advocating and what people like Gandhi advocated? And that is, in the end...
Gandhi, you mean?
Gandhi, yeah.
Yes.
In the end, both Gandhi and Martin Luther King and certain strands of Christianity who are committed to pacifism stop at 1 and 2 and would think it was wrong to go to number 3.
No, he would have gone to number 3 if there was need. These were the stages. Non-violent, non-cooperation. Not even disobedience. It was only non-cooperation. We are not going to wear your clothes. That's all. Then the non-violent disobedience, civil disobedience, breaking the law. If these were good days for the Britishers, they would never have left India. Neither they killed anybody who was striving for freedom, nor the people killed any Englishman. And they were going, and they were in haste to go. They had planned in 1948 to free India. But then 1 year, earlier they went. So, had the third stage come, Gandhi would have gone challenging the system, and the system can never change without bloodshed. We have to be very simple. No system can be changed. Religion can be changed. The creed, the dogma, it can be changed. People can become Christians. People can become Buddhists. But to establish a politico-socio-economic order, well, that has to entail some bloodshed. That is why Muhammad, he took sword in his hand. Otherwise, it would have been a missionary type of work only. Deen would not have been established.
I would like to take the issue of the intelligentsia, the intellectual elite that you referred to in passing in your talk, and you made a distinction between the intellectual elite and the masses. I'm not concerned about this distinction at the moment, but what I'm concerned about is the intellectual elite in the Muslim world. Of course, the intelligentsia are not homogeneous. One can define them in so many different ways. But I think that in the Muslim world, one major composition of the intelligentsia is the religious intelligentsia. And in a country like Iran, we said that in a sociological sense, not in a normative sense, I think that Iran is the only example I can think of in the 21st century where religious intelligentsia are in charge. They have the power. Of course, there are major conflicts between